Boston on ABC Radio Brisbane.
25 minutes to 5. Some time back, time's a bit of a blur, I think it was earlier this year, I can't recall, I had cause to be in hospital for about a week. Nothing major, in fact it was more embarrassing than anything. I had antibiotic drips running out of my arm all week, nurses coming in day and night changing the drip, making sure the antibiotics did their job. I wasn't terribly sick. In the ward I was in, there were some really sick people there. One guy was banged up from a motorcycle accident and the poor guy hadn't eaten for weeks and all sorts of things were being done to him. And there I was, just there for what I'd call as a lifestyle problem. But it was mind-numbingly boring. I couldn't sleep properly because all I did was lay on my back. So when I wanted to read or distract myself, I couldn't focus properly because I was sleep deprived. And I was thinking, if only there was something on the ceiling, to distract me, because all I did was lie on my back. Well, my next guest has been working to inject a solution or to create a solution for the lives of patients in intensive care wards, in particular at the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital. Claire Rackley had brain surgery in 2015 at the hospital and now is brightening the lives of other patients with art. Claire, lovely to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How did the operation go or the surgery go a few years back?
Oh, I'm definitely a success story. But the condition that I had, I still have the condition. Basically, my brain has prolapsed into my spine. It's called Chiari-1 malformation.
Wow.
And
okay.
so,
I've got no idea what that is.
No, I know, and I didn't either.
No one does.
I know. The doctor was telling me I need to go see a neurologist, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're telling me.
Yeah.
But basically, one of the worst case scenarios for me was full body permanent paralysis.
Okay.
And at the time, I just had my third baby, and I wasn't able to really be a mum. And so I thought, well, they said to me it was a gamble. It would get better, or it could stay the same, or it could get worse. And I just thought, well, I have to try for the get better. And so,
Amen, right.
So they removed some skull, removed some spine. And the recovery has been really hard and really long. Particularly for a perfectionist. I found it really frustrating.
Are you a perfectionist,
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh, dear.
I think the main thing that this has taught me is just to let go of that, because there's some things that I just can't be a perfectionist. Life has meant, it's thrown things at me where I can't do things that I used to be able to do, and I need to be okay with that.
So here you are, you're happy and well, and you're changing the lives of other people with art. I assume because you were lying on your back in hospital for so long, staring at the ceiling. But that's my assumption. You better tell me the story.
Yes. Okay, so I wasn't an artist before surgery. I actually picked up the paintbrush after surgery and just used it as therapy. But it was in the waiting rooms, it was in the recovery rooms, it was in waiting for this, just like an MRI scan and everything, where I really noticed other patients and myself staring at these white tiles and basically trying to count the dots, and then
those same generic white tiles that are on the suspended ceiling of every public building in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And there were two patients that really changed, I suppose, planted a seed for me. The one was, I was in there waiting for my MRI scan, and she was wheeled in, and she was in a bed, and she'd obviously been there a really long time, and she could only look to one angle. And I remember thinking, goodness, I am so fortunate I can see all the tiles, whereas she can only see one. And in that moment, I thought something has to be done. And the second patient that made quite an impact on me was after I had come out of ICU and into the recovery ward. There was a lady across from me, and when I finally was able to walk past the room, just said, her bed. I said, how are you? And she's like, I want to get out. I'm in prison. I just want to see the sun. And so I was too unwell really to do anything, but I messaged my husband and just asked him to bring in a colorful picture, and we stuck it on a wall, and it was amazing just to see how her demeanor changed. She wasn't well. She didn't all of a sudden get remarkably healed, but there was a calm that came. And I think it was also, that was one of the seeds that meant to me, this is what needs to be done. But obviously I was too unwell to do anything. It took about 2 years before I could really even consider the idea. And then it's been the last 2 years that I've been knocking on doors.
So what have you been doing?
So
you go on someone's door, knock on their door and say, what, can you paint or give me money? Or both?
Now that's it. So what knocking on the doors looked like was I had created this product, and And really, I probably seemed like a crazy person at first. And so...
When you are a perfectionist, so yes, you're halfway there.
That's right. In fact, my husband and I joke all the time. He's like, Claire, you have a new idea every day. I don't listen until you've told me 5 times. Yes, so I basically was just contacting hospitals trying to find the right person to speak to say, I've got this idea, I'm able to provide it. So for stage 1, which was basically just for one room in one ward, the neurological ward, the manufacturer and I donated the tiles. And what that was for was to, one, give back to the Royal and also for the benefit of the patients, but secondly was to show that this idea could work. And so from this first stage, we're actually doing a survey at the moment and getting patients to give us, and not only patients' families to give us a response on how they are affected by it.
My guest is Claire Rackley. She had brain surgery in 2015, and now after the mind-numbing boredom for her and other people in the ward, she's trying to do something about it by putting pictures or art on the ceiling tiles. So if I go into the neurological ward, you're talking about in the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital, and I'm lying on my back with tubes running out my arms and wherever, what would I see when I'm looking up on the ceiling?
At this point in time, it's only been my work so far. I do anticipate to work with other artists in the future. My work is abstract, but the benefit of that is that beds can be placed at any angle and patients can view it. And what was really incredible is when we were installing, I met a patient and she had been there before the tiles, and then afterwards I was there a few weeks later, and then she had obviously been there with the tiles for a period of time, and she told me that every tile, because of being abstract, she found a new image in every tile. And so it was a calm, but it was it was also a distraction. And she said even then when the light changed, then the images in the artwork would change. And I think that's the thing with art is you need time to appreciate it, and these patients have time.
And so with abstract, your imagination, your eyes and your imagination can do the work.
Yes, and before, just from personal experience, you could have the best community outside of the hospital, but you get sick and you're sitting in that waiting room by yourself, left to your own thoughts. And so and
it's those thoughts that haunt you, don't they?
Absolutely. It's the waiting that's really hard. Surgery was hard, but it was the waiting for the months before surgery that I found really testing.
So you're looking for help. You've got a GoFundMe page and you're asking people to donate to do what? To take this further than just one ward at the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital?
Yes, so the GoFundMe right now is, we've called it Stage 2, and what Stage 2 is that we want to complete the neurological and spinal ward, and the idea for that is also we would like to do research. So looking into things like the depression score. Does it improve the depression score? Does it help with, does it calm patients? Therefore, does it change the work environment for doctors and nurses? In the long term, this is something that we'd probably need to fill the whole hospital to get the research, but, does it shorten the stay of patients?
I have a mate who's an artist, who's a really good artist, and he used to do art therapy in the oncology ward of the Mater, I think it was, where many of the patients were terminal. And I said, mate, that must be really terrible and sad. He said, you wouldn't believe it, but I have some of the best stories and the happiest moments with couples and people who are leaving this mortal coil, and the art was able to unlock something where a husband and wife hadn't spoken in a certain way for 20, 30, 40 years, where parents and children were all sorts of tragic situations, but the art therapy seemed to unlock something in them.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, their real self came out. So I believe it. Artists tell me that the power of art is almost supernatural, that it's transformative, it changes dramatically. So what if someone wants to help you out, maybe a hospital, maybe a doctor's group, someone listening, they want to help you out, and maybe they've got a family member who's lying on their back right now in a hospital somewhere going stir crazy, staring at those white tiles in the ceiling, what can they do?
Funnily, I'm actually a high school teacher, and I need to go back to work, and the day that the Royal said yes to me, I also got an offer to go back to work full time. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? It was like an ideal job. I'm like, no, this is a dream. This is not just a dream for me, but I want to see an improvement for mental health in patients. So I said no to the job, and we're pursuing the ceiling art. So it is a business. So if hospitals would like to work with me, I want to work with them.
So what do they look up on the web, or what do they do? How do they contact you?
Yes, so my website is clairerackley.com.
RACKLEY.
Yes, and Claire is all the AEIOUs know.
Yep.
And also the social media is Claire Rackley Art, all one word.
Thanks for coming in, telling the story.
Thank you for having me.
Claire Rackley. So Claire is CLAIRE, then surname is RACKLEY. You'll know that monotonous boredom if ever you've been lying on your back in a hospital staring at the ceiling. You'll know exactly what she's trying to do.